Welcome back, family, to another episode of Truth Be Told podcast, where we'll be telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us, God. In this episode, we will be reviewing the latest movie from Jordan Peele called Him, starring Tyreek something as Cameron Cade and Marlon Wayans as Isaiah White. If you haven't been to this channel, first of all, let me welcome you. I hope that you enjoy and come back for more. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can get further into the algorithm so that more people can be exposed to the truth and the whole truth, right? So let's get straight into it. Him, the latest movie by Jordan Peele. Definitely a must see if you're a Jordan Peele fan. If you are a Marlon Wayans fan, let me just start by saying Marlon Wayans been him. Okay, so if y'all just now getting on the bandwagon, you're late to the party. Growing up, he was the Wayans brother for me, right? So I had to see it. Love him as an actor. So glad that he is in another movie, right? So where we can get to see his talents for sure. Ladies, I'm going to just say, if you can take a little spooky stuff, definitely a lot of eye candy in this movie. So that was a treat for the ladies as well. So I'll have to thank the awesome directors for that. So let's get into it. Despite that intro, typically I take a higher stance on or a deeper look at the meaning of things, right? So often here we look at the spiritual nature of things, the true root of certain scenarios, situations, circumstances, whatever topic we're discussing, we get to the root of it. So if you haven't watched any other episodes, go back, look at some other episodes, and I'm sure you'll find the information divulged quite interesting. Not your typical channel. So, back to the movie, we have Cameron Cade, the main character. Let me give you the cliff notes. He's of high moral standard. He puts God above all else. His order of things are God, family, football. Cameron is slated to be the first round draft pick, hopefully by the San Antonio Saviors. He, however, sustains a head injury from a crazed fan, which ultimately threatens his career in the NFL. We learned that through his life, his father has basically coached him up to be this awesome football player, right? So he's like the guy. He has the looks, he has the background, he has the athleticism. He's the guy for the job, right? So, like a well rounded individual, I'll say. So, we learned that, unfortunately, before he could get drafted, his father passes away. And throughout the movie, that's basically used as his motivation to go into the league, right? Despite his own wishes, we'll just say. Did I mention this is a spoiler alert? Well, if you if you haven't gotten it by now, by the title, by the picture, this is a major spoiler alert. So if you don't want to know the whole dang old movie, I suggest you click off now. Isaiah White, who's played by Marlon Wayans, is I would say of a more questionable moral compass or character standing, right? It seems his job is to get Cameron to come into the darkness. So while on the physical plane, right? Physically, he shows up as not only just Cameron's mentor, he ends up mentoring him and training him to get into the NFL with this one-on-one training. He essentially becomes the thing, person, entity, whatever have you, trying to lure Cameron into the darkness. And we'll get more into that. Isaiah's character, though, teeters from good to bad, light to dark rather quickly. He gives Cameron good advice. You have to find something that gives meaning to the game. It can't just be for your family. It can't just be for the parents. Like, it has to be deeper than that for you. You have to dig in deep and find that. He tells him all about sacrifice and everything like that. The whole movie is kind of a mind F. If you don't know Jordan Peele's work, then you're in for a treat. But Isaiah's lifestyle is basically ego based, where he's operating through the lower chakras. And we know that's pleasure based, that's greed, lust, rage, anger, kind of those carnal instincts, if you will, right? Where we could say Cameron Cade's operating from, I would go as far as say it's Christ consciousness. He's very in tune with his relationship with the higher power. So, operating from those higher chakras, he has empathy, shows emotion, he has wisdom. Like I said, he is connected to God, he values family, he's very rooted. So, stark difference in personalities, of course, intentionally, right? Isaiah, however, constantly tests the boundaries of Cameron. We see this throughout the movie, and we'll get into those different tests. Um, we see early on that Isaiah gets these blood transfusions to help him perform better. So, of course, we're shocked. Cameron's shocked, and he's like, yeah, this is what gives him that extra edge, right? One would assume it's his own blood, but we later find out, yeah, not so much. And perhaps this is attributed to those blood rituals we hear about with the so-called illuminated ones, Illuminati, the higher ups, the gatekeepers, whatever, the masters of the game, if you will, the masters of the matrix. So whether this is a literal thing that happens on those higher up societies in the upper echelon, if you will, whether that's something that actually takes place or not, this could be seen as a metaphor for that, right? So anyway, Isaiah basically he gets everybody out of their good character and good standing. He gets people to act out of their lowest selves, encouraging violent behavior, encouraging people to be non-empathetic about other people's feelings. Very different from what we see from Cameron. He even asked Cameron, what are you willing to sacrifice? And I'm sure you've seen it in the trailer. If you've seen the movie, he's literally screaming it. He goes from screaming, and once Cameron like feeds into that and tips over to the side of darkness, like he's willing to sacrifice everything, Isaiah calms down and is like, okay, show me. So it's very, he does a good job of pulling on the emotions. Like I said, Marlon Wayne's chef kiss, because his performance in this movie was so, it just draws you in. It pulls on those emotions. Dare I say, tantalizing, very intriguing, very deep, mysterious. He played his character so well. Again, I'm biased because I love Marlon Wayans. So I took the liberty, because this is Truth Be Told, where we get to the root of things, we go deeper. Took the liberty of looking up Isaiah in the Bible, right? Because names have meanings for certain reasons. So I looked up Isaiah in the Bible. It's funny because if I was a boy, my name was going to be Isaiah. So it intrigued me further to look this up. Basically, the main message of Isaiah is he was calling for God's people to repent from their sin, especially social injustice and idolatry. Once I saw that, Jordan Peele was so great. So he also offers a message of hope and future salvation through the coming of a messianic king, right? So we know that to be Christ in the Bible. But here, if you look at this through the movie's lens, right, is that Cameron Cade the coming of a king who is more of integrity, who encourages peace, love, and light, right? So we could see how that's applicable to this movie. I thought that was so dope when I read that. Okay, so let's get back into the movie. Cameron is constantly tested. His boundaries are tested through Isaiah, through different things in the movie. I'll give you a few examples. He's first isolated from his family at this training camp. They take his phone. Familial ties often keep you rooted and grounded in something bigger than yourself, right? They will remind you of who you are, your integrity, things like that. That could be a good thing or bad thing. Some people's families, inspire them to be their best self. Some families can hold you back, right? Either way, it's a root, it's a tether, which makes me think about the other Jordan Peele movie. And I'll probably do a review on that. It's funny, a lot of people don't see the same things in movies. That's why I love art. That's why I felt I had to come on and do this, because it ties in so much to what I've been preaching on this channel. Anywho, he encourages Cameron to cause physical harm to people when he doesn't really want to, but he kind of gets, the game going, the adrenaline up when they're practicing, and Cameron, he starts bringing that dog out of him. He starts bringing out that inner beast, and he's hurting people, aggressive on the field. Aggression on the football field, I guess, is normal, but this is to the point where people are seriously injured. And you can tell Cameron is basically the only one that feels some type of way about it, still has that empathy, right? So he's encouraged to cheat on his girlfriend. He's offered blood transfusions. He is taken to there's no better way to say it, but a Illuminati party, like where it's like at a hotel, no windows, secret codes, like all the things you think about the Illuminati, or the gatekeepers, if you will, that we all kind of speculate and think about. So whether this actually happens, because we do hear people say, these parties are kind of crazy, and the party in this video was extremely crazy. But there's a constant test of the boundaries, and you can tell he's morally conflicted by these certain circumstances. Some he gives into, like the violence on the field and things like that, but you can tell he's upset. Whereas he won't cheat on his girlfriend. He won't just engage in all this salacious behavior at these parties with women and other things like that. So he really, while I want to say he struggles with his morality throughout the movie, he keeps it intact for the most part. So he does a good job of that. So kudos to him. If only we all could be like that. There are a couple different things in the movie that stood out. So one of the things to me were the crazed fans. And that was just an indication showing the way people are easily brainwashed into things of mainstream culture to the point of insanity, right? People ready to fight over celebrities they don't even know. Meanwhile, the celebrities' main job is to distract us. They themselves are drafted to draw us into the virtual reality of the Matrix. So we focus on things of no personal value to us, right? They get us to buy into the Matrix, the virtual reality, um, so we can watch the movie, so we can watch the football games, use our energy and our essence to fuel the agenda. So we're paying attention to everything except for what we should be paying attention to, which is our life, our spiritual growth, our ascension. Of course, we should use these things for entertainment, but we're so deep into it, it becomes our life. Celebrity life is now everyone's life. That's all anyone could talk about, and not really furthering self, right? So we just need to be mindful of that, how to separate the two, the entertainment from the actual life. And, we shouldn't be aiming to be like these people that we don't even know. And that was another thing with Isaiah White. He was, you know, basically idolized because he was such a great football player. He was the GOAT of his time, and people idolized him to the point they were willing to cause harm to others or themselves on behalf of him, just to be around him or be seen by him. So we have to be aware of what we are assigning importance to and what we are subscribing our energy to, right? So feeding less of that darkness, the messiness, the drama, the chaos, all the things of a lower vibration, and focusing on higher vibratorial things, seeking knowledge, understanding things, applying the wisdom in life, helping people, seeking purpose. So I won't beat that horse to the ground. If you know, you know. In a spiritual sense, we see this kind of tease throughout the movie. In the beginning, we see a lot of Cameron's cross. It's kind of, he wears a cross necklace, and it's kind of zoomed in and isolated several times throughout the movie, right? Throughout the movie, also, they show it in like an X-ray vision where we see it in black and white, and basically we see everybody's skeleton as if it was under an X-ray. Think about that deeper. We're no longer looking at the flesh. We are looking at the spirit in those moments of black and white. So we can see the spirit and how um the spirits are encouraging each other. So we're looking at the spiritual plane. I thought that was so deep. No longer seeing the flesh, so we don't see their flesh and their body and things like that. All we see is the black and white of the spirit, and it was so clear on where everybody lied with their spirit, right? Because either you were dark or you were light, either you behaving in darkness or lightness. If you know, you know. Isaiah's spirit naturally was dark, encouraging violence, where Cameron's spirit was light, but being constantly tempted into darkness through his actions. But again, we saw him constantly having that empathy for people who were being hurt all around him. Every day, we're tempted to be of the light or dark through our choices and actions, choosing to be messy, like I said, low vibrational, or uplifting and optimistic. This is that angel devil thing in your ear that we see in movies and things, and we kind of laugh about it, but you constantly have this going on in your mind, in your subconscious, in your conscious, encouraging you to do certain things throughout the day, right? So you get cut off in traffic. Oh, I should F somebody up. I should cuss somebody out. Or you could just calm down. Maybe they were in a rush. We're in traffic anyway. What does it matter if one extra person gets in front of me, right? Or you're having a bad day and you're like, oh, everybody's going to know I'm having a bad day. Everybody's about to catch it. Now, is that lower vibrational or higher vibrational, right? You could easily turn that around and say, you know what, since I'm having a bad day, I kind of need to go somewhere and get myself together so that I don't affect others negatively, right? You can choose to be light or darkness. And I don't like to say good or bad because, things happen. And if you do end up being on the negative end of the spectrum, forgive yourself, learn to do better. Very simple. You don't have to stay in the darkness. You can always come over to the satellite. So just learn to do better. Like I said, once you know better, you do better. Once you get the knowledge, you apply it. And that is that. So another thing that I wanted to discuss were the different signs he received about him basically being on the wrong path throughout the entire movie. He, first of all, sustained the head injury that threatened his well-being if he continued to play football. That's one big indicator that you probably shouldn't be doing this. His doctor advises him not to play. She even says, as a doctor, I'm suggesting you don't play. And he's like, but as a fan, like, what would you suggest? And it basically alludes to, yeah, he needs to go play, right? Because he's supposed to be the next greatest thing. His girlfriend even suggests that, this is basically like a divine intervention after getting the injury, not going to the big tryout thing for the NFL. Sorry, I'm not a football girly. I don't know the football terms. But she basically says, like, this is, maybe you should take this as a sign, like, you don't have to do this. Maybe this is a good thing. You can do something else, work on something else, become whatever you actually want to become. The sports medicine doctor at the compound where he's training with Isaiah White tells him to run, literally tells him to run several times, leave, get out of here. Don't sacrifice your whole life for this. It's not worth it. And he even goes into his own story telling him, I got into this business thinking I was going to help people, and it's just not what it's cracked up to be. Then we find out he's already spoke with his dad about not playing football, him not wanting to play anymore before before his father passed away and he ends up in this space where he can get drafted. So all those are indications of how, he is on the wrong path. And I thought it was poignant because a lot of times in real life, we will get indication after indication after indication we are going the wrong way. And how often do we ignore it? Because we want the money, the fame, the fortune, the notoriety, or the paycheck, right? It doesn't even have to be on the grand scale of fame, just in the scale of you want to work in a certain field because it makes a lot of money. It's not aligned with any purpose. It's not aligned with anything you want to do. It doesn't make you happy. You're just doing it for a paycheck, right? Imagine being a great singer and you spend all your time trying to be a lawyer, right? Or being someone full of wisdom, right? And you spend all your time trying to be a NFL player, so we were all intended with a purpose. I say that all the time on this channel. If you don't know, now you know. We are all made with a purpose, right? We weren't just haphazardly thrown here. Everybody has a purpose. It's usually tied to your gifts. What are you naturally talented and gifted at? That's where you'll find what your purpose is, or the launch pad, if you will, of your purpose. Because a lot of times you'll find that you will start off with your gifts and it takes you so many different places. What is that Bible quote? Basically, your gifts will make room for you and you'll sit amongst mighty men, or something like that. So it doesn't have to be forced. You will get where you need to go if you follow the right path. I spoke about that on my other channel. Maybe I'll bring that information over here. We will see. So let's talk about the gatekeepers or masters of the game. The owners allow others to do their dirty work, to persuade Cameron to subscribe to the matrix they've created. They admit that they put him in scenarios to force his decision to sign his soul over, basically for fame and fortune instead of purpose. So, they basically tell him, like, we created certain scenarios basically to force your decision. So, him growing up, watching football the whole time, watching Isaiah go from a tragic injury to back into the game, that could be an inspiration to him to have the injury and get back into the game and want it more. You see what I'm saying? Make him go harder for it. What else was I about to say? So they do that, and they basically admit that they've been the gatekeepers the whole time. They've been orchestrating this whole thing. His agent was actually his handler, right? Getting him to do things and basically taking him to where the masters of the game, the owners, want him to be, getting him to say certain things to Cameron to persuade his decisions, right? They think they set him up the whole time. He was a plant. The most interesting plants grow in the shadows, right? Think of a lotus flower. So, they think they've cornered him and got him boxed in to make a certain decision. Whole time, I believe what the movie was showing is someone who is correctly linked or has a deep relationship with God, higher power, just something above themselves, bigger than themselves, is rooted in something way bigger than the matrix, than the program, right? So when I say matrix, what am I talking about? Because a lot of people throw that term around. What are we really saying when we say that? I call the matrix the virtual reality we live in today, right? So we've been plugged in and subscribed to everything they sold us. They convince us to sell our souls for paychecks, neglecting our purpose. The matrix is the game here, right? The money, the careers that give you the money to get you to invest your energy and time more into the game than to figuring out self, knowing thyself and knowing purpose and ascending to that, creating that relationship with a higher power or source, getting rooted, right? All those things are part of the matrix. This money game, this idolatry of celebrities, this the notion that we should all aspire to seek for fame and fortune and notoriety by any means necessary. Now you have people literally sacrificing their integrity on TikTok just for likes, comments, and subscribes, right? Views, clicks, and attention. Everyone's trying to go viral by just being their lowest selves. That's the matrix. So the masters of the matrix, they know this. They can't have us all walking around in our divinity and God given purpose. They need us as puppets to fulfill their agenda. We've seen the quotes all the time now, and I say now we have the information. Now it's time for us to do better. They get you to work for their companies to make them greater, bigger, richer, and whatever, while you get a menial paycheck and basically are nothing at the end of the day to them as they climb off the backs of other people towards success. This is what the matrix is. Whether you're looking at it on a high global scale, a upper echelon scale where celebrities are based, let me tell you, celebrities are paid a large amount of money, a big sum, because they pay a lot, right? Through their integrity, right? Sacrificing their integrity, their morals, their values, their wants, their needs. They know better, right? So when they are putting these songs out, putting this music out, it's a lot in the music, putting these movies out that lack integrity or bring us to darker things, these TV shows, I always will mention baddies, anything to get you to operate in a low vibrational way, right? There's a reason why some of us were grown up on Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society, and another part of the population was grown up on Leave It to Beaver and Full House and all these cutesy things, right? Just think about that for a second. What you've been trained to believe about the world around you, about yourself, those closest to you. It's all a mind game. It's all a trick of the matrix to get you to believe a certain way so you behave in a certain way. If they can dictate how you think, they don't even have to worry how you're going to behave because they're controlling how you think. That controls your movement. Your brain controls your movement. So that's the virtual reality of the matrix. That's the agenda, to get us all away from purpose, disconnected with self, disconnected with source. So we don't know ourselves. We don't know any better. All we're looking for is to reap the benefits of money. Why? To get material things. Why? Because it makes them richer. There's really no reason we need to walk around in 1,000 brand names, right? If you do, no shade to you. That's no down on anybody. But really, what does that do for the spirit? Nothing. So while physically that feeds the flesh, does nothing for the spirit doesn't need that. The spirit knows where it wants to go, and it is constantly trying to pull you and direct you into the correct path. We just have to be willing to listen, right? So keep that in mind as you're going through life. Of course, we need money to live life. I'm not suggesting we throw all the money away, right? That would be nice. But remember that money is just a tool, right? You can use it for good or bad, doesn't matter. So, you know the saying, they say money is the root of all evil. Money is the root of all evil if you're rooted in evil. Money is the root of all good if you're rooted in good. So you dictate the path you'll go, not money, right? Keep that in mind. We're supposed to be aligned with God, with self, with purpose, however that looks for you, whatever avenue of spirituality you take to get there. The goal is to know thyself. I was guided to look at another chapter in the book of Isaiah, the chapter of Isaiah, have you? 3 to 9 basically is a warning from God that he will come against his people and judge them for their evil. Take that as you will. The best laid plan is not of man, but of the Most High. So, like I always say here, it's been another great episode. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't seen the movie, I suggest you go out and see it. You know how we go. Truth without love is brutality. Love without truth is hypocrisy. So we need to seek the truth so we can speak the truth so we all can be the truth. Peace, y'all.